So I'm going to get started. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our self-care conversation. This is outCT's Virtual Pride Week. My name is Chevelle Savage, and I will be your moderator for this evening. And I also serve on outCT's board of directors and am the education chairperson. Also, my paid job, I am the owner and consultant and therapist with H.E.A.L. That stands for Helping Everyone Accept and Adapt to Life. We provide therapeutic services for folks navigating all identities so that they can be their authentic self on their wellness journey. So enough about me. I want to introduce you to our wonderful esteemed panelists, and I think you're just going to be in for a wonderful treat. We've been planning this for a while. We're excited to spend time with you, and so if you'll excuse me, y'all, we all have different ways of being able to navigate and learn. So I have some notes right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and read those, all right? Okay, here we go. First, I would like to introduce our panel. The first panelist is Juanita Austin. Juanita is a New London native, has been working in the New London arts community for the last 4 years. A graduate from the University of Connecticut with a Bachelor of Arts degree in digital media and design. She has served as a leader on many grassroots community arts and initiatives, and now runs her own arts organization, Culture AF. And y'all know what the AF stands for, all right? And Culture is a social hub and creative platform. It is run by artists and creatives who are producing content, building community, and curating unique experiences that bridge the gap between the art world and Black culture. Welcome, Juanita. We appreciate you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
Our next panelist. Yes, we're glad you're here, Chad. Our next panelist is LaQuana Sheppard. LaQuana is a licensed master social worker and certified school social worker for the state of Connecticut. LaQuana has received a master's of social work from Springfield College. She also holds a Bachelor of Science in Social Work with a minor in sociology from Southern Connecticut State University. LaQuana is an independent business owner focused primarily on anxiety and stress management and using meditation, affirmation work, and body healing utilizing yoga practices. Thank you for being a part of our panel, LaQuana. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And last but certainly not least, we have Minna Murphy. Mena is the founder and chief cosmetic formulator at Zeni Beauty Cosmetics. She has a New York State cosmetology license, advanced certifications in aesthetics and makeup artistry. Her over 25 years of experience in the beauty industry includes freelance makeup and hair for print, feature films, and industrial videos. She has a bachelor's degree in business administration from Post University. Now listen, y'all, the selection of today's panel guests was intentional because the folks featured here have all intersecting identities that I'm sure a lot of our viewers also embody. So without further ado, let's get into it. So listen, I gave everybody a brief intro of who you are, but I want everyone to go and tell me who you are, why self-care is important to you, and how you're affiliated with outCT. I'll start with LaQuana.
Hi, I'm LaQuana Sheppard. Thank you, Chevelle, for the beautiful introduction, and thank you for working with outCT to create this space. It is a great honor for me to be here with you all this evening. So self-care is a very important part of my journey. I think for many years I was moving at very high rates and always moving fast and always glorifying being busy until I hit a space of burnout last year. And so I think for me, like Audre Lorde says, caring for myself is not an act of self-indulgence, but it really is an act of self-preservation and an act of political warfare. So for me, self-care is really preserving myself, and it is putting myself in a higher level, kind of elevating my mind, body, and spirit the same way that I would others, right? And so self-care is important to me in that realm so that I can show up in the world as my best self at all times. So that's why self-care is important to me.
Okay, great. And so, like, how are you affiliated with outCT?
outCT, I have been able to attend an event that they held at Ocean Beach. And I went there with under Southern Connecticut naturalistas to be able to provide a service and resource that day. So that was my first real introduction to outCT. And since then, I was lucky enough to be one of the people interviewed in the neighborhood interviews with you, Chevelle, and since then invited back for this self-care panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Juana. All right, next, we're going to go ahead and go to Juanita. If you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, why self-care is important, and then also your affiliation with outCT.
Sure. Again, thank you for having me. I am an artist and a curator, a small business owner, and a New London native. And self-care has been something that's important to me and how I go about my daily life. I knew from a young age that what I wanted to do with my life was going to be something that I could wake up every day and be happy. And thinking about that as a young kid, I didn't really think about that as self-care. But now as I'm an adult, I'm running my own space. It's sort of more in the forefront of everything that I do. Self-care for me is making time and space to do things that feed your mind, body, and soul, and keep those things healthy in that way. And art is a huge portion of that for me, which is why it's something I want to pursue, not only in my personal life, but in my professional life as well, because it's something that feeds me and keeps me going on a daily basis. And so how I've been lucky enough to be connected with outCT is through different events that the organization has hosted over the last couple of years. But more recently, we've got connected through you, Chevelle, when we met at the Trans Remembrance event, which was a beautiful ceremony that was held. And that was something that was really a spark for me, where I wanted to connect more with our organizations. And since then, same as LaQuana, I've had the opportunity to be in Who's in the Neighborhood, which was a wonderful time doing that program with you, Chevelle. Now we're here doing the self-care panel, and we have some other things coming up, collaborations between culture and outCT that I'm excited moving forward and continuing this partnership between us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate the collaboration. Relationships are so important in community involvement, right? And so once again, last but not least, Miss Mena, please tell us why self-care is important to you and your affiliation with outCT.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate being a part of this. You know, self-care is one of those roads that I had to learn, and it took me a long time to appreciate that it was okay to take care of myself, that I didn't have to stretch myself so thin to the point that everyone had and I had nothing. So the journey was losing everything, losing myself, coming back full circle, and realizing that if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of anybody else. You can't give from an empty well, you know. So that was the whole thing. But when I think about self-care, it's coming to the point of realizing that you have to put yourself first before you can take care of anyone else. You know, put the mask on yourself on the plane first, then you put it on the kids, not the reverse. And so that's where self-care and the importance of it came from. And as far from a business perspective, you know, self-care is important to me. Zeni Beauty was created a couple years ago in its current form, and the point is that Zeni is part of the name Zara Zeni, which in the Czech language means inclusion. And inclusion for me was multifaceted, and it was more than gender, it was more than race. It was a very holistic perspective, because many times throughout our lives, there's a time where we don't feel included. We feel like we're not a part, like we don't fit. And I've been through that. I've been through the time, you know, there's cosmetic companies now and everyone is pro women of color, and it's wonderful to see. But I remember when that didn't exist. Where if you saw a woman of color on the cover of a magazine, she was as beautiful as she is, Halle Berry's complexion, she was not complexion, or she wasn't on one at all, you know? So inclusion for me means everybody, every gender, every age, because that's a whole other thing. You can be Black, but you're 12. Okay, well, that's not helping me at 52. So being that, so when I think about inclusion, I think about self-acceptance, self-care. Everything about what I do and who I am revolves around that based on my experiences, my life experiences.
Awesome. Awesome. And how are you affiliated with outCT?
outCT is a new affiliation primarily through you, Chevelle. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more events coming in the future. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful connection for me, for you, for the synergy between what the company, what outCT stands for, and what I stand for. I think it's a perfect marriage, because personally, people are people. And I really get tired of the gender and the this, and I'm let's be united through color. Color of our skin, color of our makeup, color of who we are. Let's let color be that uniting factor. And I think that outCT is really a great way to kind of get that message out.
Okay. So I hear you. So uniting, and I think Zeni Beauty means is it uniting in color? Is it unite in color? Is that one of the taglines? I think I've heard or seen that.
United through color. Yes, united through color is
united through color. Okay. Yes. So, y'all, as we were planning the panel and we were trying to figure out how best to support folks who were tuning in and engaging with us, we came up with different aspects of where we're going to talk about self-care. And I think we're going to start with you, LaQuana. I believe that you had a poll that you wanted to go ahead and start and just ask the people about that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chevelle. Yep. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So I wanted to start because why we're here is really to lift up knowledge around self-care, and self-care has looked really different during these times because the world has really slowed down an incredible amount, and we've been doing a lot of social distancing and social isolating and not really being around people the way that we usually would. Our social interactions have decreased, and we've spent a lot of time in our house with people that we either live with or by ourselves. And so the amount of energy and motivation that we're putting towards self-care may look really different during these times. So I wanted to start with a poll and just asking the group, what have you done for self-care during this pandemic? So if you want to take a couple minutes, we're going to put the poll up on the screen. And I want you guys to go ahead and take the poll. And then what we'll do is look at the numbers after. So I'm going to give the group a couple minutes to take the poll.
These are some good options for self-care. Definitely.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, we have like meditation, reading a book. Maybe you've set up more virtual meetings with friends and called a friend. And there's also an option for other. So if none of those options are ones that you found yourself engaging in during this time, I'm really curious to hear what some other things that folks might have done during this time that may not be included on the list.
And I keep forgetting that I'm muting myself. So, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for folks to be able to engage in the poll. So we're going to give a couple of minutes for that. I mean, while folks are doing the poll,
okay.
Juanita, let me just like check in with you and just ask, like, when you talked about how important, like when you were young, that you wanted to do something that you would be happy with. I mean, who does that? Like you knew then. You were like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to be happy.
I was not with it, with the bowl back then. But no, I was definitely always a dreamer, and I never gravitated towards, I guess, what people would say the normal jobs, or the typical jobs that kids, wanted to be. I remember one of my first jobs I wanted to be was an Egyptologist. I wanted to travel the world and go on expeditions and things like that. So I've always been a little bit on the, what's the most unusual thing that I can do and for my life. And it's always been about how can I, you know, work, but also enjoy the work that I do.
Gotcha.
Beautiful.
And so, go ahead, Juanita, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, I was just checking in and seeing how people were doing with the poll. I saw you also asked that as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, all right. We getting some folks.
Okay, awesome. Very good.
Okay. So the poll, did y'all see the poll results?
I can't see them. Let's see.
It popped, yeah, there you go. It popped up real quick and then it, then it went away. So, so nobody's meditating, okay?
Okay.
There are people reading books. Folks are taking walks. Some folks are calling friends. People are cooking, and then there's other. So, wow. Okay, no one is exercising, nobody's making art, and nobody's writing. But we haven't closed the poll yet, so we'll kind of leave it open a little bit longer for folks to be able to engage, you know, if they want to go ahead and and go a little bit further. But so, you know, with that, so Juanita, you knew right then that you wanted to do something that brought you joy. And I think really that's intuitive. Even when you're a young human, to know that, what is that saying? They say when you enjoy your work, it really isn't work. What is that saying? Or if you
my
do
mom
something
told
that
me
you
that
love,
from a young age. If you find something that you love, it'll never be work. And I think that encouragement was really good for me as a young age, knowing that and knowing that support from my parents that, hey, if I find something that I love, I can find a way to make it work. And I think that's what led me into being an entrepreneur and doing the things that I do, because growing up thinking that and having that support from those parents that fed that for me was fundamental to my development, I think.
Wow. Okay. Now, Minna, I'm gonna check in with you because you and I have been around the sun about the same amount of times. So we have
that's
a little bit more. So we have a little bit more in common around our trips around the sun. But I heard you mention when you first were sharing out about why self-care is important, is that you have to give yourself permission to do self-care. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, you know, like you said, we've been around the sun a few times, and unlike Juanita, I didn't have the benefit of having parents that encouraged me to be me. In fact, I had the complete opposite. And I've always been a creative person, and looking back, I mean, this passion that I have for makeup was there when I was 8, 9 years old. But it was, no, you got to get a sensible job. No, you know, young Black girls, you're not going to be, you're not going to be that. You know, you need to become a secretary because that's the only way you'll make money. It's that kind of thing that I grew up with. So I lacked the encouragement to really even begin to be encouraged to look into what are the alternatives. By the time I realized that there were multiple avenues that I could have pursued within this industry, I was married and pregnant with my first child. And it was just like, literally, I was just stuttering, like when I realized, like, oh my God, there's so much that I could have done. But, you know, when you talk about parental encouragement, that's a big deal for me. And that's one of the things I really wanted to talk about, because, you know, my perspective is that I'm a mom. I have 2 beautiful, beautiful daughters who are grown, 30 and 27. And so I have the advantage of being able to look back on and do a retrospective on what it was like to be a parent, to have raised 2 phenomenal young women, the pros and cons, the things I did well and the things I wish I could have done different. And a lot of what I've seen just looking at my daughters, not my daughters themselves, but their friends, their friends, the people they grew up with, those families, is a major issue in our community. And that's kind of one of the things I kind of want to at some point touch on, is what some of those issues that I've seen are.
Okay. We're gonna jump back on that. So we have a couple of things that we have going on in our chat. So all right, DJ Ephraim Adams, and then Ty. Listen, the last name is PACE because names are important, right? And I don't want you to mispronounce mine, so I don't want to mispronounce yours.
They go by
so I'm just
Ty.
gonna be like,
Ty.
huh? Go
they
by
go
what?
by
Ty.
Ty.
They go by Ty?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So Ty said I've been doing a mix of a lot of those self-care practices. I've also gone alcohol-free, doing all of this, which has been crucial to my self-care. Listen, yes, Ty.
Good for you, Ty.
You better go.
Good for you, Ty.
You better go ahead and take care of yourself. All right.
Yeah.
And DJ. All right, unless you're gonna help me out with that one, Juanita. Says great panel reminder. There's still 2 hours left to vote. That's true. That's true. We're gonna try to keep the panel up, child. Listen, we're doing our level best with this whole technology thing. All right. So be patient with us. Give us some grace. All right. Like the title say in the situation. All right. And then also, DJ also mentioned intermittent fasting. Has helped me lose 15 pounds during COVID, more meal planning. Right, meal planning is important. You know I made a homemade pound cake and homemade yeast rolls and making jam and current on all of this. And I wonder would I've done any of that if I was still running, you know, and doing and not being able to kind of like sit down and take, you know, a pause. So, and then Xavier says, self-care for me is having boundaries and limitations and respecting them. This includes respecting my workspace and my home space and creative space. Self-care is also realizing when it's time to rest, connect with my higher power, disconnect from social media, and changing eating habits and incorporating healthier options. Now, I do know Xavier personally, and Xavier has been doing such a good job and has been really engaging in some self-care practices and changing, making some lifestyle changes. So I'm very, very proud of him, and he definitely is an inspiration to me in regards to those things. So
I love that. I love that, Xavier.
Right, yes. I have been walking myself, and okay, like I did it twice. But either way, I still been walking. All right. I went out and bought me some brand new tennis shoes so I could have the arch support, because you know how my trick knee set up, child. Listen, I need to have the support, okay, with all of this. So I've been doing that. What are some other things that y'all have been doing when it comes down? Oh, we have another one second before we get to that. Joy, all right. A favorite human of mine. I have also been doing a variety of those things as part of my self-care. It was hard to choose just one. I also realized that I had to give myself the permission to take this time to relax and not succumb to the pressures of always needing to be productive. Right, Joy? Isn't that something? Isn't it? We just talked about that in our panel when we were meeting about FOMO, right? About fear of missing out, always wanting to do something. Sit down and relax. It's all right. You're gonna be rejuvenated, take you a nap. It's okay. Thank you for that, Joy. Joy is one of my favorite humans as well. So anyway, so we're going to go ahead and jump back in and chat with the panelists. So listen, y'all, I know that you've named a couple of things, but give me one particular area from your area of expertise that that you think is important for our viewers to hear when it comes to self-care from your perspective and your area of expertise. I'm gonna jump in with you, Mena, because I always start with you late. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in with you first.
Okay. From the perspective of makeup and as a cosmetic company, my area, what I'd say about my area is use makeup as a tool. You know, makeup has a sordid history. You know, we go into people feeling made up, feeling like a Jezebel, and all kinds of variations in what people feel about makeup. But makeup is a tool, just like your hairbrush, just like anything else. And you can use it to enhance how you feel about you. Because at the end of the day, part of self-care is not only do you feel good, but when you look in the mirror, can you go, hey girl, okay, can you do that? Can you do that? Do you like who you see in the mirror? And some things we can't change about our appearance, about our life. We can change makeup. That we can do something about. We can all look better. Not that any of us look horrible, but we can all look a little bit better. Look a little bit better. You know, and that's something we can control. So makeup can be that tool to help you feel better about you, to kind of correct some imperfections that you have control over. Even if other areas you may not, you can control that area. So that's, when it comes to self-care, makeup can be that tool to facilitate that.
You know, I love the fact that you brought up some of the history around makeup, right? And we go back hundreds and hundreds of years, and even we go back to like biblical times or whatever, and folks, and that the people who wore makeup were, as you said, had a negative connotation. Jezebels, that kind of woman, maybe having all of these negative, misogynistic titles, right? But now, just like you said, Mena, it's a tool. It's a tool, just like walking and exercise and eating right helps build your endorphins, help you feel better about yourself. Because we both know that what goes on the inside affects what goes on the outside, right? So what's going on up here also affects the body. So just like you said, if you're in a day and you're like, listen, I'm killing the game, my makeup is on point. You know what I'm saying? I took my time, I did it right. I was like, all right, then yes, you do feel much better. I even said that one time, when I was doing my thoughts on a Thursday, and I said sometimes, especially when COVID first hit and it was hard to be motivated, child, it was a lot, to be able to, like, you know, I was like, ooh, I woke up late, I almost was late to the living room, because, you know, what office do you have but to go like into your living room? So at the end of the day, what I noticed to help keep me motivated was that I actually was getting up, putting on clothes. You know, because it's all right to be in your pajamas and all of that, or your lounge clothes. But I know for me, to keep me motivated, I got up, showered, put on clothes, put on makeup, put on jewelry. And that made me realize that I had some type of normalcy to my day, and I was able to start it, right? And it also helped create boundaries, because then at the end of the day, I took my makeup off, took off my jewelry, and the other apparatuses that I need to hold things up. And then after all of that was gone, then I could be able to chill out and, you know, and calm down. And then that was the end of the workday. So I'm glad you brought that up. Quana, what are some things that you think are important when it comes down to self-care from a mental health perspective?
Yeah, so I think in preparing for this evening, I started to think about and meditate on what is wellness. And wellness for me has just been the active process, or just being more aware about making active choices that are healthy and contribute to my life being more fulfilling. And a pillar that I have in my work right now is to redefine healthy mind, body, and spirit. So I think for me, self-care it's like, you know, it's what do you call a trifecta? It's the combination of caring for your mind, your body, and your spirit. And how do we do that? I think for me, meditation has helped my mind and my body and my spirit. You know, prayer, and just really trusting my gut more than usual. Um, I also think like part of body healing is body movement, which we may or may not be getting a lot of that in right now, because there is a lot of time spent in the house, because there really is nowhere to go. So I think body wellness is also really important towards self-care. Something that I've been trying to do is integrate more body movement, whether I put a song on and I'm dancing in the house with my 5-year-old and we're being silly, but my body's moving, or if I find a simple yoga practice to start my day, or if I'm stretching parts of my body that I usually don't get to move, because I might be sitting at a desk doing work most of the day. So I think for me, just finding the balance between body wellness, spirit wellness, and mind wellness has been really important. And I think it also helps with just lightening the energy. I think that we if you are kind of activating on all those levels of maybe getting more walks in, maybe you're writing to get what's on your mind out on paper, maybe you're drinking more water and hydrating, because that's good for the body and also replenishes energy. And maybe we're making different choices about when we eat, right, or what we eat. I think for me, in order to thrive, there has to be this really healthy balance between mind, body, and spirit wellness. So I think for me, it's definitely yoga, even if it's just simple yoga practices and body movements and stretches, because I think sometimes the world that we live in the media gives you this idea of what yoga really is, when really it is appropriation of what really yoga was intended to be. There's 8 different pillars of yoga, and really what it is about is becoming aligned with your inner self and your inner peace. And that's the intention of yoga. And so it doesn't have to be these like crazy body movements where your arm is trying to go over your back and your leg is trying to go over to the side and you can't even find your balance, because that's not meant for everybody. I think for me, a simple yoga practice of coming into a warrior one, or doing a cow pose where you're over and you're bent over and you're able to stretch your back, or sometimes they call sanasana where you're able to lay on your back and get into a place of power, right? So I think for me that has been really helpful, is yoga and meditation.
I love how you brought yoga into the space, because I think with Black and brown folks, sometimes yoga can be intimidating, especially if you are a woman of size, such as myself. I started practicing yoga a couple of years ago and just got out of practice with it, because I would go to, I didn't want to go to studios where someone that didn't look like me and everyone was small and white, and if they were Black, they were teensted. And so, and then to have to ask for someone to modify a pose for me was kind of like a little embarrassing. You understand what I'm saying? So I love the fact that as a Black woman, you're like, listen, this is this is important. It does, every pose is not for everybody. You're right, because I don't ever think I'll be able to put my hands underneath my leg, my knees, and lift my body up off the ground. I don't think that's gonna ever happen. All right, even if I lose a pound or two. And as a matter of fact, I don't think I want to do it. But either way, so the fact of, I remember feeling so liberated. What is the pose, Quana, where is it the tree pose, where you actually have your you put your knee up and it goes like your yeah. So that, when I was able to achieve that, and my it was a curvy yoga instructor, and she actually helped modify what that looked like. We had blocks, we had the stretchy band. She made sure that I was comfortable and that I didn't hurt myself, and checked in about like, hey, is this sensitive? Tell me how it feels when your body does that, and adjust. But I felt so liberated when I actually could do it. I was like, wow, I can do this. As a full-figured woman, I could do something that I've seen on TV, but I don't see a lot of people that look like me on TV doing those kind of poses. So I'm so glad that you're in the space and talking about that, because representation is so important. Okay. Yes, we have. All right. So we have some questions, and we're going to address those, honey, in the Q&A. I like the idea of getting into a place of power using yoga. Exactly, right? Because that is liberating. And I remember feeling very empowered when I was able to do that pose. Something as small as a pose, right? Having control over one's body. Now, Juanita, we're going to jump into you, honey, because, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Quana.
Oh, no, I was just going to add really quickly that yoga should always feel empowering, and it should never feel like, you should never leave there feeling like, oh man, that was a shot to my self-esteem. And I think that that's sometimes where we are in some places and some spaces. But yoga should definitely always feel empowering when you leave it.
That's awesome. So Juanita, listen. With your creative paleontologist self, right? back in the day. Tell me how art and the soulness of art and doing creative things can tie into self-care.
Absolutely. So first I want to say is, I think one thing that has to be done is demystifying art making or being an artist or being a creative. We're all creative people. We all do creative things on a daily basis. And maybe sometimes we're not even thinking that we're being creative. So one perfect example is if you can slay your makeup, that's an art. That's something I'm still learning to do. That itself is an art. There's people,
I'll help out with that.
right. There's people in the poll that
I'm gonna leave that to Minna.
They've been cooking. If you can cook, you can bake. That is an art. So there's a lot of things that we're doing on a daily basis that we may not even see that we're using our creative energies. And I think just focusing on that and focusing on those things that you really enjoy is important. Also just thinking about, between art making and just experiencing art in itself. So when's the last time that you just sat and just listened to music, or you sat and just danced by yourself? Those are ways that you can incorporate art and creativity into your life. Writing down your thoughts. A lot of these art practices or experiences help with self-care and relieving anxiety. They help with stress reduction. So a lot of these practices are ways that are going to actually physically benefit you in your mind, in your body, in your soul. So again, just thinking about different ways you can incorporate that in. When's the last time that you may have gone to an online open mic? Shameless plug. So these are different.
No shame.
To incorporate art into your daily life. There's people now being so creative with COVID and social distancing, and how we can bring art into people's lives virtually. So there's people doing at home, painting classes. As I mentioned, poetry and open mics. You don't have to participate, but just experiencing it and bringing that into your life is really important. There's virtual art shows going on right now. outCT is doing one on their Facebook page and has a website. So there's so many different ways that you can incorporate art. So whether you're actually making it yourself or just experiencing it, it can be something as simple as coloring. That in itself is such a stress reduction and really important. And I think as we've gotten older, art is so, important when we're kids. Everything we're doing, we're always encouraging kids to be creative, to color and draw, use their imagination. And then it's like as we get older, that gets, slowly gets taken away. So I think as adults, we have to start rediscovering those things, rediscovering our own creative expression, and what we enjoy within art in ourselves. And that exploration, I think, is so important to our self-care.
First of all, I just want to give you kudos for how you started the conversation when you said demystifying art. And I think sometimes we can make these grandiose gestures and think the only way that you can be an artist or creative is if you're doing paint or sculpture and all that. And you just broke it all the way down and were like, listen, if you can slay your makeup artist, come on. Y'all see what I just did? Come through. So, so at the end of the day, like when it comes down to, even like a paint class, I know I enjoy going to the little paint classes. It is relaxing to me. I paint at the beat of my own drum because that's just who I am set up as a person. Everybody else is like, my waves got to be like this. I'm like, I want my waves to be big and grandiose because that's who I am. Exactly. So at the end of but I find it relaxing, right? And so I love the way that you said that. And also it makes art accessible.
Right.
And I think for me, hearing that is so important. And you were right. When we were children, we were, and even as a mother of a human, right? And also the gaga of a human. So that's why he left a grandmother. So I always encourage my son, to be creative. He was in calligraphy class. Don't come for him, all right? He was in calligraphy class, all right? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that support. he was the only little black boy in calligraphy class, but that's all right. But anyway, so he wanted to do that, and he wanted to engage in clay pottery. So he's always been very creative and wanting to do those things, and I encourage that. But you're right. When do we turn the light off and think that we're too old to engage in the things that brought us simple joy? Even coloring, child, even doodling. Haven't you been in a meeting and you're like, you know what? I need to engage in self-care because there's a lot going on with whoever's talking. So let me just do something to bring me some joy, and you doodle. And that does, you draw on a flower or a bridge or whatever. Isn't that interesting how you pick up on that? And that's the first thing that you do. But that goes back to that creative spirit that you actually brought up, Juanita. Wow, okay. Someone said they enjoy painting on glass and painting at home is fun. There's someone that said that happens to be to be my spouse. Thank you for participating, baby. So and also too, DJ says it's called culinary arts for a reason. That's right. That's right. If you can cook and you can bring a meal together, child, yes, that is so true. I love this. This is awesome. This is awesome. We also have some questions that have been coming up, and just so y'all know, for our viewers, we're going to answer those toward the last 20 minutes of our time together. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Now, let's get into this big I word, child. Intersectionality. Because we're not one-dimensional beings. We're all multidimensional beings. So how does intersectionality play in? All right. I know me, I have so many intersecting identities. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, I'm a gaga, I'm a sister, I'm a therapist, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an activist, you know, all the things that I have that embody who I am. And they make me who I am, and they shape my experiences, right? So I know each one of y'all have those things as well, different identities that shape how you move about the world and how you navigate the world and how you engage the world. So, Minna, I'm going to start with you. I know you'd mentioned that initially when you first had to come and like after your children got grown, you were like, it's okay for me to be, you know, take care of myself, but also that raising your children, you noticed that there were some challenges around that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that the murder of George Floyd spotlighted, and all the other ones, spotlighted racism not only in this country, but across the world. And one of the things that it really helped me, that made me, during this time of COVID, it's ironic that it all happened around the same time. So we had to be in and we had to really deal with these issues in a way that we would, I'm working, so I really can't deal with it. No, you had to deal with it. You're forced to. And what it made me really kind of look at is as we protest, or, we protesting our rights to be treated with respect and treated with dignity and equality, there's an issue that I personally have with the division within our race as Black, brown people, and brown people. That is what's truly the enemy and truly the issue that is tearing us apart. What the officer did was horrific. What we are doing to ourselves as a people is just as bad, if not worse. And what I mean by that is when you talk about a mindset, talk about self-care, what we sometimes do as a people and have done, and race and slavery is really the seed of it, is destroy our own self-esteem by our internal self, by our self-talk, to our internal self-talk, as well as the way we speak to our children, as well as the way we deal with our community. For example, you're not Black enough if you're too light-skinned. Why are you always talking white if you happen to be a Black person who's articulate and intelligent? Oh, you'd be so pretty if you weren't so dark. These are issues. White people aren't saying this to us. We are saying it to ourselves. We're saying it to our children. We're saying it to our neighbors. This kind of undercutting, backbiting is destroying us from the inside out. So although other races are doing things to us, we also really need to address what we're doing to ourselves and how can we self-heal? How can we heal that? Because once we can take care of that, at least in my opinion, what people on the outside do is going to have a smaller effect on us than what's happening now. Because now we're being torn down from the inside, from the outside. We just can't catch a break as Black and brown people. And perhaps we need to look at ourselves and look in the mirror a little bit and say, okay, what can I do starting from home to start to empower and fix and elevate myself, my family, my community? And that's one of the areas that kind of like, that's a real touch point. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's kind of where my mind was starting to go.
Well, so why is it? Explain to the viewers why colorism is so important to you.
Okay. One of the things that we have, we're all multifaceted, and I'm a mom of two phenomenal young women, but they're biracial. So my experience as a dark-skinned Black woman is very different from their experience as light-skinned Black women. In fact, they look almost Hispanic, curly hair, light skin. A lot of people mistake them for being Hispanic, when in actuality, they're not, they're biracial. And the experience that they have had, one having one experience, the other one having the complete antithesis of an experience, has been that their social construct, the people that they were around at that particular time, shaped their experience. One of my daughters, we moved to another area of New York, upstate New York, and when we got there, she was just not accepted by the Black people in the area. So of course, the people who accepted her were, of course, white. And a lot of comments that were made when she was a child is, oh, because you talk white, why do you talk that way? And she would be like, oh my God, Valley Girl, that kind of stuff. And that's how she was as a young person. But because of that, or maybe that could be one of the contributing factors, that maybe they didn't accept her, whereas the other daughter didn't have that experience. But colorism, the fact that they were lighter skinned should not matter if they're still identifying with being part of the culture. And one of the things that my eldest daughter brought to my attention is that there's this big movement now where if you're not, they want to make mixed people a different race. They want to make them their own category on the census, so Black, white, green, whatever, mixed, come on now. We come to a point where, because in actuality, if you're born here in this country, you're mixed. According to Ancestry.com, I'm 31% European. So let's not let the complexion fool you. This area is close to my heart because of that. But also I'm a brown skinned woman. And one of the issues that I've had is, oh, you'd be so pretty if you were lighter skinned. Or that whole, those of us a little older, that whole paper bag thing. If you're darker than a paper bag, then you're not considered pretty. Because you have to be lighter than a paper bag to be accepted. That kind of stuff. We still have that. The seeds of that is still there. We're still feeding our children that. We're just still feeding our young men that, so that they're not stepping up. There are things that we are doing as a culture that's destructive to us that we need to stop. And if we can stop that, then we can worry about what other people are doing to us. But if we can't fix the inside, we can't take care of home, we're still going to be flawed. We're still going to have problems going into the future.
Thank you, Minna. And so definitely, I wanted you to touch on the colorism component, because a lot of times when we hear about colorism, we think of, like, say, someone who is darker complexion, such as myself, and what that looks like. And also my son is darker than me. And so being the mom of a very dark skinned son, in this stuff that we navigating is hard, and it is definite, and it is that colorism is real, and it is, and she's right about that in our community. But when you were talking, I chuckled, but it wasn't because of what you were saying. I was reading something that Gigi said. We have to support Black lives on a united front, not just the Black ones we approve of or deem valuable due to our own stigmas. Men, women, queer, transgender, educated, street, older, younger, and more. It doesn't matter where the slave ship dropped you off, either. You have to do better. So guess what?
Yes.
We all descendants, all right?
That
We all
part.
descendants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we always dropped off somewhere. All right. There we go. So I think the division, and I hear that, but also too, I want to also name the division is there, but I want to name why the division is there. And we're not gonna stay on this. The division is there because of patriarchy. The division is there because of misogyny. The division is there because of white supremacy. The division is there because of racism. The division is there. So it's like, as a Black people, we have been set up to divide within ourselves, and that was intentional. All right. So I'm gonna get off of that, y'all, because people who know me know I can go all the way there, but I won't. All right. Now, Dejan on Facebook says, breaking down the simplicity of anything artist was absolutely beautiful. Oh, that's Quana. Patriarchal, capitalist, heteronormative culture. Yep. And then Michelle Brock said, facts. That's so deeply rooted in systemic racism. Absolutely. So listen, with that, Quana, you also are like a business owner and a mama and all of that. How do you navigate all of those things? And we actually are going to give some tools and tips, y'all, that we can do. We've talked about those as well. But we don't want you to think that you're going to leave here without any resources, right? So Quana, how do you navigate all of that? And I'm coming to you, Juanita, afterwards about how you navigating with COVID. How you navigating being a mama, also trying to work and be an entrepreneur, and then also trying to have your own life and being a teacher that you did not sign up for because of COVID. How are you navigating all that and still engaging and practicing in self-care?
Yeah, I think in the beginning of the pandemic, I was like pushing myself to have activities planned every day, to be this amazing teacher that, you're right, I never signed up to be. And I was just pushing myself to just perform, to just be, all that I needed to be to everybody in the beginning of the pandemic. And then once I realized that COVID wasn't going anywhere anytime soon, I had to really dial back, and I had to create systems right in my house so that I could continue to work and that my 5-year-old could have things to do, whether it was just having little stations in the house or I had to create systems that didn't rely on me being the sole provider for so many other people, and to give of myself, because I was becoming exhausted. And I think the title of this panel is Giving Yourself Grace. And when we were in the planning phase, and Mena, you first brought that up, I was reflecting so much on how much I really had to give myself grace during this period of time. And I had to allow myself and give myself permission to not be productive, like somebody was speaking to earlier in the Zoom chat. Right? Because as a mother, you just want to make sure that your children are okay when the world seems like it's falling apart. And one of the things that I had to learn, which was really hard for me, because when we started socially distancing, and I was kind of losing my tribe, right? Which I don't think I was really realizing at the time. But as the single parent, I had relied on so many people. And then, the world was saying everybody has to stay home and don't be around certain people because you might be carrying the sickness and you could be getting other people sick. And so, everybody kind of just retreated to their own spaces. And I had to come to the realization, like, I might be losing certain supports. And so I think that I had to allow myself time to receive that, to process all feelings. And I had to honor all my feelings, whether it was grief or sadness or anxiety or frustration, because we all go through it. And honestly, I'd like to say, and I know that this is some messaging that has been there, but I think that we all went through just like this collective grief. because our relationships, our interactions were changing. Everything that we knew to be of the world was totally shifting. And so I had to honor every single emotion that I had, and I had to allow space for it, whether it was writing, whether it was crying, because tears are allowed and we don't have to be strong 24/7. And I had to do all of that and find balance and find community in different ways. I had to redefine community for myself, hopping on different virtual calls or meetings, or reaching out to different mother groups, other mother groups, so we can all talk about our experiences. And whatever community looks like for you, I think we all have probably had to do it during this time of creating different community, and our community looks different. And I think the last thing for me was really realizing that I don't have to be so resilient 24/7. Like, I don't have to just be like the strong Black woman all the time. I could be like, resilience looks different for everybody. Whoever you are, it looks different right now. We don't have to be super resilient, and that we can just allow ourselves to try to adjust to the new normal. And so that was me, and just finding balance and allowing myself the grace to feel all my emotions. And I just love my son because he's kind of kept my energy high and kept me doing fun things. And so I think that is definitely my experience of just honoring all of the responsibilities that I had and giving myself time to feel through it and figure out what worked for me once I found my rhythm after we had to do this for 90 plus days.
Listen, listen. The first month of COVID was cute, right? I was like, okay, yay. The second month, I was like, you know what? All right. The third
I was
month,
like, listen, we really in this. Yeah.
I was like, yo, it was a lot. It was a lot. And for the first, and I didn't realize how much, and I've shared this with other people in my life. With a couple other folks too in therapeutic settings, but I didn't realize how much an extrovert I was until I could no longer see clients in person. So yes. Some of you may know I'm also licensed in Virginia, so I do teletherapy with my folks that I see in Virginia. So that's fine and that's great, but I also see people in person in Connecticut. Well, when we had to shelter in place, everybody had to go through Zoom. And so the majority of the folks transitioned to teletherapy, but some just didn't want to. Not gonna understand about that. But initially I was like, okay, that's fine, but Zoom fatigue is real. And I didn't realize how much it was affecting me until I was talking to some of my other colleagues who were therapists and engaged in teletherapy. And one of the things that we noticed is that when you're on a Zoom call, now, I've been told that I cuss with my face, so I don't even have to say anything, and my face says all the words, okay? I try to talk to my face, I tell it to behave, it don't listen, so here it is. So at the end of the day, what I've noticed is that, like, and folks who allow me to share in their wellness journey, some of my clients, they know Chevelle got the faces. But this one thing for me to have faces, and I don't see the faces. But now I'm on a Zoom call, and that's with everybody. And you're seeing your action on how you're looking. You maybe look away or whatever. So you're policing your face, you're policing your actions, you're policing everything on a consistent basis. And that is emotionally and physically taxing. And that is what causes Zoom fatigue. And so when you're on constant calls, and also too, I'm a consultant, so I do diversity, LGBTQIA, diversity inclusion, trainings in Virginia and all over. So I'm doing those kind of things. So and you're engaged in a lot of energy, that's a lot. So if y'all are feeling like you just need some time to step away and like balance your Zoom calls, that is okay. You don't have to get 600 calls in a day. Okay, I know that you're not doing that. I'm being facetious. But what I'm saying is that you need to find a way to balance. If you know that, all right, I can do a call at 10 o'clock and then I need a break, just kind of relax, get up, move my body because I'll be stiff and, that causes problems. And then maybe I can do another call after lunch and then maybe one more before I end the business day. That's fine. You don't have to pack in calls from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m. because that's what you did on a regular day. There is no way you can do that. That is a lot, okay? Yeah. And so for any job, any employer, any organization to have that expectation is just not fair. And I invite them to navigate what that looks like in their structural self-care practices. So in saying all of that, Juanita, part of Culture AF is community involvement, community engagement, community collaboration, being in space with people, being around other creatives, popping off of that energy, right? All of that, all of the stuff that I was talking about that I miss with my clients. How have you been navigating that with the new virtual world that you've had to adapt to?
Right, that was really difficult, especially at the start of COVID. So, you know, we closed down Cultured Studios, our lounge, which was a mix of our lease was up, so it was good timing. But then also COVID, you know, we couldn't do anything anyway. So then it became to like, so what are we going to do? Are we going to jump on this, you know, virtual wave? Are we going to do events and things like that? And I started realizing how much you know, people make fun of me because they're like, you don't like people, you're such an introvert. And I'm realizing, I'm like, no, I like being around people. I'm a social person. Like my whole business is a social business. That's the purpose of it. You know, the way we run and make money is off of events. We're not doing events, you know, I have nothing to do. So that was difficult. There was definitely a moment, I think, in the beginning where I was just a little bit depressed. Like I was like, you know what, Culture Studios is closed. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do nothing. And so I also, you know, was very mindful of the Zoom fatigue. So I didn't want to hop on and start doing a bunch of events right away, doing everything, you know, an event in a week and like, you know, trying to bombard people with a bunch of stuff. So I was very careful and intentional with the events that we did start doing virtually, to be mindful. One, everyone's on Zoom, whether it's for work and also our social life now. So I just wanted to make sure that the events that I was doing were going to be impactful for people, and not just feel like another thing that they're being bombarded with. So that was something, one, I kept in mind for other people, but also for myself. You know, I didn't want to tire myself out with, you know, feeling like I have to be productive. And we've talked about that, feeling like because, you know, culture's here that we have to be doing something. So there was definitely giving myself the grace and permission to be like, hey, you know what? If I don't want to do something, I don't have to do it. I can take this time to, you know, reimagine new ways of doing things, take time for myself. I don't have to be, you know, throwing up an event every other week. So that was sort of something that I had to, you know, tell myself with Culture. But definitely the community aspect is huge for us. You know, when I started the brand, you know, at first it started off as this, you know, just a digital thing, but I knew for it to be really impactful that physical space was really important to us and what we do and to building community. So again, that was something that, you know, we had to deal with and cope with during COVID. And so some of the ways was just going to other people's open mics and poetry events and staying connected with our Bridgeport family. We have a lot of people in that area that support us and come to our events. So that was something that kind of kept us going. And some of our other friends and artists who have been doing things. So really just tapping into other people and checking in with them and seeing how they're doing during this time was really important for my mental health and for the health of Culture as well. Because again, you know, I missed, you know, Culture became my social life really. So it was like not only work, but that was where I saw my friends. That's, you know, that's where we partied. That's where I got my social enjoyment from. So, you know, also having my business closed down, and then that was my source of my social life. So we just had to find new ways to engage with our friends, engage with our community online. And we're just super happy that we're, you know, coming in this kind of opening up a little bit with being able to see people and do things, has definitely sort of lifted a lot of my spirits, coming into realizing that COVID is not going away anytime soon. So I think a lot of it is just for people finding ways to, again, engage with art in a way that feels healthy and doesn't feel like it's another task that you have to do. And I think that's what the balance is with this virtual world, is how do we balance that? It's tricky.
Yeah.
I love that you talked about balance, because that is so important, right? When you talk about self-care, balance. Like I know for me, I actually have like a specific area in my home in which I do my work. Now that I've been actually going back into my office, I'm a solo practitioner, so I don't have to worry about any interaction with anyone else. And the way my office is set up, I'm able to see folks, and we're socially distant. You know, if they so choose to be able to come into the office to see me. But even before I started allowing people to come back into the office, like in-person sessions, I started actually going to the office and doing my telesessions in the office. And that actually changed my mindset as well, because I, like you, was starting to get like depressed and like cabin fever, and it was just a lot. I was like, this is too much. It was, listen, and you know, I'm a lot of a diva, so I won't get my hair cut, I won't get my nails done, my feet done. The only thing I had left over was makeup. Thank you, Mena. So, you know, it was just a lot that was going on, child. So I had to get dressed to put on my clothes and things so I could feel better about myself, and you know, and help my self-esteem, because it is so easy to get caught into that and to like just not want to get up and stay in pajamas all day and not want to do anything, because you're like, well, what's the use, right? So I'm glad that you were able to find ways in order to be able to actually, you know, reach out and still be connected with people. So we have a couple of messages. So Elena says, yes, the quarantine experience has been very different for introverts and extroverts. Speaking as an introvert, I have enjoyed staying home. So glad for you, Elena. Elena is also one of my favorite humans. But
I feel like I'm a mix of the two. Like, I don't mind being home most of the time. Like, I enjoy the comfort of my home. But I did miss the social engagement. So it was like a weird, like, I was confused. It was like, I'm kind of happy being home, but I want to go out at the same time. So I don't even know where I fall in that line.
I think it's, you know what I think, y'all? I think it's the fact of when something is taken from you, you like, wait a minute. Because when something is taken from you, if I have the option to be able to do it, like, it's just like wanting to be invited to stuff, right? You want to be invited to functions or whatever. And I think I was talking, I don't know who I was talking to this about, but I was like, you know, they were like, yeah, it starts at 11 or 10. It started at 10? It don't end at 10? It starts 10 p.m., not a.m.? I was like, whoa, girl, I'm about to take a nap. So, you know, wanting to be invited, and also, and want, you know, like wanting for folks to want to be engaged with you. That's one thing. Then it's a fact of,
thank you, Michelle.
It's just a fact of
introvert,
that you just you can't, you know, when you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. I was looking at Juanita, you're a part of Team Ambivert. Welcome, sister. We are your tribe. And then when it says, and then Chauncey, when we were talking about Zoom fatigue and having to navigate your face, Chauncey said, it is. I have to catch myself from rolling my eyes while my boss keeps talking. So yeah, then there's that. When you know what I'm saying, you like, somebody say something, you like, oh, they saw it. Right. they saw my eyes. Or either you catch yourself. I mean, I was anyway, I can totally understand that.
And all these meetings don't have to be Zoom calls. I'm like, some of these meetings can be phone calls. They don't have to be Zoom calls.
Right. And I feel like that was the weird thing, that it was like some people, you know, with their jobs, it's like, I could go all day without having to be on the phone call or do something with, you know, with people. Now everyone wants to hop on the Zoom to talk to you and do everything. It's like, I can operate this job without 1,000,001 Zoom calls, y'all. I feel like people are just so missing the connection that they just wanted to, you know, use this technology. But it's like, this could have been an email or a phone call. Like,
a quick text message, we can get that solved.
Exactly. So with all of that, y'all, let's talk about some ways that we can navigate. I know y'all talked about that before or whatever, but some of your own self-care practices that you have embodied that have been COVID friendly, as well as like, and what would you want to do what practices are you going to continue after COVID that maybe you've picked up on? Have there been any new practices that you've engaged in and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that I like that? So I'll let whomever wants to start can start.
I'll start. So just something new that I've been engaging in is trying to write more. So I hang out with a bunch of poets. I always have hanged out with poets, and everyone would be like, aren't you a poet too? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. But I'm trying to engage in it more. I write haikus. So that's something that I'm trying to practice more in claiming, one, in being an artist, and then also for my own just self-care and, you know, exploring my different types of art that I enjoy. So that's been something that's been fun for me, and aids in, one, my creative expression and my release for my self-care, as well as just exploring, you know, the artist within myself. So that's something that I hope to continue doing, you know, now and then after COVID. And hopefully post-COVID, when we're getting back to open mics and things, start sharing some of my work more publicly. So that's, you know, one thing personally for myself. And then just advice for other people, I would say, you know, start looking into your daily life and find those little moments of creativity that I sort of mentioned before. And how can you start doing those maybe more intentionally, and encouraging those acts in your daily life. And if you feel like you're not doing something creative in your life, what is something that you've always wanted to do? And again, it can be something so basic as just doodling or coloring or writing in a journal, and starting there and see how that expression helps with you and your self-care and your mental health, and see if you notice any differences in yourself.
Okay. Who's next?
That's good, Juanita. I just want to jump in and say, I think for me, because I am so big on body healing, and I feel like really, you know, yoga and meditation and breath work have been like saving graces for me. I think that I've really been centering that a lot more in my practices. I think somebody mentioned in the chat earlier that they've been doing intermittent fasting, and I've been also doing that, which you only eat between 12 and 8. And so that's given me more time to focus on some of those practices. Like instead of eating maybe in the morning, instead of doing that, I'll have like a couple glasses of water, and then I do my meditation, and my meditation helps me with breathing. So I might put like one hand on my heart, one hand on my stomach, and I'm breathing in, you know, taking 3 deep breaths. I'm feeling my stomach expand and my heart, you know, my chest go upward. I'm feeling the breaths, and I'm noticing my breath a lot more. And I think that really helps with mindfulness, of just kind of living in the moment, being with your breath, you know, taking each step of your day one moment at a time, instead of like thinking about the next step. You're just living in that one moment. And that's really been helping. And I was speaking to the body healing, it's just getting up and moving. Like sometimes I'll put a song on. This was a practice that was introduced to me last year that I absolutely love. But sometimes I'll put a song on that I love. I'm a huge Billie Eilish fan. So I'll put on like Ocean Eyes, or a song like that. And I will just allow my body to move. I'm doing whatever my body is telling me to do, because oftentimes my body is giving me messages and telling me what I need. It's giving me a job to do. And I'm not activating an ego. I'm not thinking about what other people will think. Sometimes I probably look crazy to the people that I live with, but it brings me joy. So, you know, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not in ego about it. I'm just letting the song go. Maybe I'm moving my fingers slightly, and I'm moving my shoulders side to side, dancing in circles, and I'm smiling. And dancing brings me joy, and I'm really big into body healing. So I've been doing more of that and just allowing music to move me in different ways. And yeah, I think those have been some practices that are new, or they're old, but I'm bringing them back. I'm like resurrecting them in my practices that are bringing me centered and back to joy.
I guess that leaves me. Last but not least. You know, one of the things that COVID and the whole environment last couple of months has really made me reflect, and press the reset button. Nothing that I planned from December, my goals, and I'm really goal oriented. Nothing that I had planned for last year for 2020 has been able to pan out. So I've had to really look at my life and reset it, and reset my priorities, my sense of self, look at myself in a way that I hadn't. You know, my new priority is working on myself, mind, body, and soul. You know, in this COVID time, I've lost 12 pounds. I get up and work out in the backyard every morning. You know, reading a lot more, but a lot of it has been with embracing and acceptance for me personally. You know, it's not always, and Chevelle, you and I, we all know that, but being a little bit older, it's not always easy being a Black woman in America. You know, especially if you are opinionated, if you are strong, if you are independent. There are a lot of things pulling at us from different perspectives, and there have been times in my life, and I've been reflecting that I've had to, you know, or at least I felt at the time that I had to temper who I was in order to be accepted. And this environment has brought me to the point where I just say, you know what, this is who she is. This is it. This is exactly who it is. I'm no longer looking for acceptance. I'm no longer looking for validation. I recognize that people may or may not like me, and guess what? I am so okay with that. You do you, I'm gonna do me.
Absolutely.
And you know, and at the, you know, being at the point where I can say I'm no longer going to play down who I am as a strong Black woman. I'm going to be here, and this is what I am. And you know what? The funny thing that I've experienced in embracing all of that is I don't have problems with white people accepting it, because pretty much when they look at me, that's what they see anyway. So when I was trying to downplay, I think I was downplaying in my own mind, thinking that other people would view me differently, when in reality, they saw a strong Black woman and that's what they saw, and okay. It really wasn't as big a deal to other races as I thought it was. So really in this time, it's really been about acceptance and embracing. And how can I be true? How can I be my best self? How can I be the best mom, be the best at whatever? How can I do that better and come out of this situation being a better version of Minna than who started 2020? And that's kind of where I've been.
So I love the fact, thank you for sharing that, and I love the fact that you said there was a lot of internal dialogue and how you thought other folks perceived you. And that once you recognized that that really was perhaps not the case, and that was just your own internal dialogue, then the acceptance of who you are started to kind of like get into the fabric of your being. You know, the thing about it is that a lot of times we look for outward validation, right? And we think that if we need to be this way or that way or this way or this way, that we have to do that. I know when I worked at Virginia State University full time, I used to have long hair. Before I got married, my spouse wanted me to grow it so that I could wear a veil, and so I had it. And then after we got married, I cut it off, and then I just started growing it back. But when I grew it back, it was probably about maybe right here, and it was natural, so I would wear twists and braids of my own hair. And I would do twists, and I would go to the loctician and have her braid it. But whenever I would have to go meet people in power at Virginia State University to push forward an initiative that I needed to occur for LGBTQIA inclusion, I noticed that I would go to the beauty parlor and have her, there you go, Juanita, straighten it. I noticed that I would go and put on a skirt.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm easy on the ass, so that's a given. All right. So at the end of the day, you know, I had my long hair, I got on the skirt and all that, to the point where one of my colleagues that I worked with for years was like, "That's my Savage. I didn't even recognize that was you. You had your hair all out." And I was like, "Wow, you didn't even know that was me, and you looked at me differently because my hair was blown out." But every single time that I had to code switch, y'all, I mortgaged a little piece of my soul. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Every single time I had to code switch, I mortgaged a little piece of my soul. And my reasoning for it and my justification was because if I need to do this to move the initiative forward so that our students who identify as LGBTQ feel safe at a HBCU, then I will do that. Because see, I can take a little bit of mortgage in my soul as long as I don't go into foreclosure. Did you hear that? Did you hear what I said? I can take a little bit of more. You can mortgage and mortgage and mortgage. Just don't go into foreclosure with your soul, okay? But at the end of the day, then I got to a point where I said, you know what? F it. I'm who I am, good, bad, and indifferent. And so right when I was about to leave Virginia State University, you know what I did? I cut off all my hair. And they were like, whoa, because I knew I was embarking on a different journey. And I have unapologetically been who I have been since I left. And that's who it is.
Right.
I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I make decisions based on, is it going to make me happy? Is it going to be fruitful? Is it going to be uplifting? Is it going to be edifying? Is it going to help me in my future? And am I feeling guilty about it? Or do I want to do it because I want to? Because you know, as women, and it's intentional as to why I had a panel of women for the first self-care panel. I want y'all to know that. Because as women, we navigate a lot. We have a lot on our shoulders. A lot on our shoulders, and people don't even realize how much that we have to navigate, right? So with that, when I've decided, I was like, I'm not doing any of that, I'm being who I am. And it seems like that each one of y'all have had that same conversation with yourself and have decided that's where you're going to be at. Juanita, that's why you have a studio that supports Black and brown folks who are creatives, and how you just like accept and affirm all kinds of creative art expression. Quana, that's why you created Alter, because you're like, listen, you describe yourself, and I'm not outing her, she said this before, as a wounded healer and wanting to help other folks, and out of a necessity to be able to do the things. That's why she holds the programs that she holds. Mena, you saw makeup that it was not good. I remember being in your lab over 15 years ago, and you were saying, Chevelle, the makeup that they have out here for us is not for us. This woman went to school to figure out the formula to create a makeup for different complexions. So one thing about us as women is that we're resilient. And I don't like to use resilient too much, because sometimes we get caught up in that strong Black mentality, right? But also too, if we've made it this far, and this is also to our viewers, if y'all have made it this far, we're in COVID, we're in a state of national unrest, we are still here, y'all. We are still here, and we are plugging away. What I tell you is just give yourself grace, because you don't know what anybody else is going through, right? You don't know, and your emotions could go from up to down at a given day or time. I could be happy in one day and sad in the same day, and that's all right. At the end of the day, I love what Quana said, is that when we talk about grief, we are grieving a way of being which we thought this year was going to be, and it has not been like that. On top of the pandemic, then we have all of these things happening to our Black men, all of these things happening to our trans women, all of these things happening to our trans men, all of these things happening, and they continue, but they're not new. They're just spotlighted now, because you know why? Just like Minna said, we're quiet. We're actually having to sit and be in the space and deal with it. So now we're going to take a couple of questions, and then I'm also, before we roll out, because we have about maybe 15 minutes left, we want to be honor folks' time who decided to be a part of the panel. So we had a question from Xavier. Has a poll about practice barriers. You got a poll? You got a poll, Quana?
I did. I was going to ask people what are some of the barriers to self-care, but we were just in such great discussion that I didn't want to pop that question in. But if we do have a couple minutes, if people want to take the poll, they can, to speak to what are some of the barriers to self-care.
Okay, well, go ahead and pop the poll up. But I also want to address the question. Minna, if you would address, there was a question about skincare. And let me go up. I want to, because Xavier had asked a question about, because Xavier said, as men and trans men, what can you do around skincare for folks who don't wear makeup?
Okay, yes, I did see that question, and I think it's great. I mean, one thing you have to keep in mind that the word makeup is like the local colloquialism for cosmetics. So cosmetics includes soap, toothpaste, body wash, detergent. Cosmetics is a huge, 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 huge category. So, let's not get just caught up in makeup. We're talking about cosmetics. Taking care of yourself is using good skincare, using good products on your skin, and taking this time that you're in to begin to take care of your skin. Maybe you used to just use, zest on your face. Perhaps now we've invested a little bit more than that. Taking the time to look at alternatives to your skincare. For example, I like to really encourage my clients to use natural oils. So I'm a big proponent of using safflower oil on my skin. I don't use lotion. I definitely don't use mineral oil. Don't do that. So safflower oil, olive oil, kind of begin to play with your own little mixes, maybe some olive oil, and throw in some sprigs of rosemary if you need something to refresh you and kind of give you energy and help. That's great for helping to clear your mind. Making sure that while you're home, that you do some routine things. For example, I still get up every morning, do my workout, and I get dressed. Now, I don't put my suit on or my work clothes, but I do get dressed. I actually do my hair. I do some makeup. Maybe it's usually BB cream, maybe some lip gloss before I go into my office in order to start work, so that there is some structure, some routine around what I do, and that I'm maintaining that level of not only professionalism, but how I feel about, because it's still, how you feel will carry over into your work, even though you're not seeing people face to face. If it's a Zoom call, if it's a conference call, if you pull yourself together and you're professional in how you approach it, and you feel good, it will transfer in how you sound and how you come across. So yes, skincare, and don't feel uncomfortable putting some makeup on just because you could be you and your partner home. Well, that person still wants to look at someone that looks good. Let's not take it for granted that just because we're home, that we shouldn't still do those things we would do before.
Right.
You just have to do it a little bit differently.
So Xavier had also asked, he said that he was looking for like skincare and hydration, looking for suggestions as a makeup is not a daily routine for him as a guy. So I know that you touched on safflower oil as well as like washing your face and things of that nature. How important, Minna, is what is the thing that you do after you wash your face? It's something.
Toning?
Toner?
Yes, toner. Yes, toner.
Extremely important, because no matter what you wash your face with, it leaves a residue. And so the purpose of the toner is to remove the residue that's left from the soap or whatever kind of cleanser you use. Even if it's an oil, you don't want to leave that on. You want to remove that. And you'll see it anytime. I don't know if anyone has done a mask and then used the toner and you say, well, why is there still some mask left? There's something on my cotton ball because of the fact that there's still residue left in your skin. You think about skin, it's the way skin cells are on your skin. It's almost like scales on a fish, so they overlap. And that's how your skin cells are. So when you tone, you wash, you kind of do this. But when you tone, you're literally going up and out, and you're removing some of those dead skin cells on the surface of your skin, as well as dirt and oils that may be trapped underneath those cells. Remember, it's laying like a fish scale. So that helps to remove that. And, it also encourages your skin's rejuvenation. Part of the thing that we have as a problem is kids are always, they complain about acne, and older people complain about wrinkles. Well, the same ingredient is used to solve both problems. That is to encourage your skin to turn over. If you can get it to turn over, it'll help with the acne and it'll help prevent wrinkles. Toning helps with that. So yes, toning. And like I said, then you can use an oil. You don't necessarily have to use a moisturizer. You can use safflower oil. I like to use aloe. I buy it in the jar and keep it in the fridge, and I'll tone and then I'll use natural aloe vera, which is an antibacterial, antifungal. It helps with toning. It helps to reduce swelling. So there's a lot of things that you can do naturally, and while you're at home, still take care of yourself, still take care of your skin.
Very good. So Thank you, Mena. You are the only person who has ever explained the need for toner to me in the way that I understand. That was from Ty. And then from Xavier, Minna, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Very helpful. And Kia said, thank you, panelists. We really appreciate you sharing your time and perspective. Thank you. Kia is our outCT board president, so we appreciate that she is watching. Hey, Kia. So that's great. So the thing, you know, and I didn't even realize about tone was that important until like Minna had to school me about that as well. But that's so true. So I love that you talk about, so what I've heard, and just to kind of wrap it up, I've heard intentional breath work, I've heard creative, and that you can be creative in any way, art, doodle, drawing, cooking. I love how you brought that perspective, because now I feel like I need to submit some pictures of my food to you, Juanita, that you put it up in the studio.
I can put a taste test too, so if you need me to taste anything.
Taste test too over here.
Listen, honey, I'm a good old Southern cook, so we got all the butter, fat, and the gluten in it. So I don't know if you want all of that, but anyway.
Not right now, I can't, but one day soon.
Okay. Well, I also do gluten-free stuff as well. And then, Quana, what I love that you said, and I had never heard this, was the body gives you messages. And you know what, that is so true. Have y'all noticed that you have been like, you run, and then finally you like, I don't know, like you're driving, you're like, how did I get home? You didn't even remember that how you got home because you're on autopilot, and then when you get in bed, you just like fall out, you don't even remember falling asleep, or that you running, and then all of a sudden you get a cold or you get sick. That's our body saying, sis, sir, they, them, sit down somewhere, okay? You need to take care of yourself. Because sometimes we're not real good to our bodies. We don't have good boundaries with our bodies. And so our body is like, well, I'm gonna show you, all right, because I'm gonna fall out on you. And there it is. So definitely I think sleep is
I was just gonna say, people struggling with stress, they oftentimes carry it in their lower back, and that's a message. We just keep going through, like, people will always just say, well, I just have pain in my lower back, but there's things that you could do to help that, and oftentimes our bodies are just sending us message to take better care of our bodies. That's all that is, right? So yeah.
Exactly. So water, I mean, something as simple as drinking enough water. I think you talked about that, Minna. You talked about that also, Juanita, and then also, Juana, you had mentioned of like intermittent fasting, along with also one of our viewers had mentioned about like, this is what I'm doing or whatever. And I too have lost weight. I was like, me and Chelsea out on the scale. I was like, wait a minute, girl, you about to be, I'm getting a snack. I lost me about 15 pounds. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, at the end of the day, I think that all of these things are important. And before we leave, I know that the results of the second polar, and okay, Ty said they lost weight too. Hey, 25 pounds down. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. I don't think I'm 25 pounds, Ty, but I know I'm at least about 15 pounds. That's okay. All right. What are some barriers practicing self-care? Not enough time, 14%. Low energy, 43%. Work stress, 14%. Not enough money. That didn't show up on nothing. Body image, internal stress. Yes. You ever noticed that somebody said, as soon as I lose weight, I'm gonna start exercising? You know, as soon as I lose weight, I'm gonna start going to the gym. Why don't you go to the gym now? But you know what? The reason why is because how the gyms look and how they're set up, right? If I'm the biggest one there, that body consciousness and how the world engages in fat phobia and fat shaming, that doesn't make you want to go and try to be your best self. You know what I'm saying? And then also how some of the equipment is not meant for people who got hips and hand pads and breasts and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many times I'm almost broke like a hip bone trying to slide into the little machine, the row machine, you know, when you put it into your legs and you move your leg like that. That's that seat is like this big. The seat is like this big. I'm bigger than that, so it's a lot. So I mean, so those are some of the barriers as well, is that we need to have actual equipment that actually embraces different sizes of folks. So that's something that the gyms and the fitness centers definitely need to work on. So we got the polls in. I know that y'all had actually planned some things around, a couple of things around what you wanted to say. I want the folks to be able to know how they can get in contact with you. Please let me know that. Tell them that. And then, LaQuana, you had a playlist that you wanted to share.
Yeah, yep. I'm gonna pull up my Spotify and I'm gonna leave the link right in this chat, and you guys can use this link to go ahead, and if you want to try some of the exercises that we talked about while we're here together, you could do it from home.
Okay. So while LaQuana is putting in the Spotify link in the chat of a play, it's like a meditative playlist, or is it like a playlist of different songs for self-care? Is that it, LaQuana, or is it just like a playlist that has helped you on your self-care journey? Is that
it's different songs. Yep.
Okay.
It's just songs for healing, song for self-care. Yep.
Okay. Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Juanita, can you tell us how we can get in contact with you and what we can expect?
Sure, you can get in contact with me through Cultured on any of our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, or our website, and that's culturedaf.life. It's the same for all of the platforms. So please get in contact with us. We're still doing virtual events. And coming up, we're actually going to be doing our first in-person, socially distanced open mic on September 4th. So we're really excited to bring back our poetry and open mic series for everyone.
Yay, Mena.
Well, you can always you can email me at minna@zenibeauty.com or any of the social media. Most of them is @ZeniBeauty or @ZeniBeauty or @ZeniBeauty Cosmetics on Instagram. We're actually, and I'm going to put it in the chat, we're actually going to be offering to anyone who's participated in this event a 15% off discount on any of our products. So there's an opportunity if you want to try some stuff, that code will be available for the rest of the year. So you can use it for holiday, you can use it now, you can use it more than once.
Wow.
Definitely want you kind of be able to think about redoing what you have from a makeup perspective, because anything you had before COVID, you might want to redo and get some new and get some fresh and clean and all of that. So I'll be definitely putting that code in the chat. But definitely, people who have questions more about makeup, trans makeup, on, how can they, utilize it to make features, downplay certain features and upplay other features. Reach out to me on social media. We can set up a time. We can do a Zoom. We can do a FaceTime or something like that, and talk and chat, and be happy to help you work through that. Because hey, we all need to look beautiful, male, female. We all just need to look beautiful, because that adds love. It's gonna add love and beauty to the world.
Non-binary, because everybody don't identify as male or female. Non-binary, trans. Right? We all need to be.
We all need to look good. We all want to look good.
Exactly. So LaQuana, Edwin has said that screen share is on for that. So if you actually want to do, like, you can screen LaQuana.
Oh, I'm here. I'm just finishing. Can you see me? I'm typing the link for everybody in because I couldn't do it like a copy and paste thing. So I'm busy over here. You see my head down. I'm typing the link in.
Can you share your screen? Because Edwin says screen share is on. So if you want to share your screen with just the link up, but I don't know if you have that ability. And if y'all will notice, viewers, thank you so much for being a part of this time and spending your evening with us on Tuesday, our second event of our virtual Pride Week. We are so excited. Yesterday we had our virtual art show, and honey, listen, let me tell you something. These artists showed up and showed out, okay? And you can continue to access that with that. And so LaQuana has put in the playlist that she has, and then Minna has graciously given us a discount code called HTTPS //zenibeauty.com/discount outCT15. So that gives you a 15% off discount for any makeup products that you may need from Zeni Beauty. And that is to the end of the year, y'all. So y'all can be pretty all year long, okay? And bring in a new year looking all sharp. And we love all the things that Culture AF is doing, and we look forward to partnering with you on a continuous basis. Thank you. Oh, and we're getting thank yous from everybody. Everybody is saying thank you. I'm not gonna tell you what Charles is so crazy talking about some toner. I can't. She get on my nerves. So anyway, that's my spouse. I love her. But anyway, so at the end of the day, y'all, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Tomorrow we're gonna have karaoke, and then on Thursday we're going to have virtual game night. Excited about that. And on Saturday is our virtual Pride. All right, and so we are looking forward to connecting with you all. Thank you for always supporting outCT. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you. We really appreciate you, and y'all have a good night. All right, y'all. We're going to talk to y'all later. Happy Pride, everybody. Happy Pride.